Okay, the last thing we want to do in this tutorial is go back and highlight the usefulness of storing custom components in a component archive or in a Flex library. So what we're going to do is go back to our component library and add another component, a really simple, in this case a label, just to highlight how this relates to sharing components in packaged archives. So let's just go back to our component here, or our library, and go to MXML component, and let's create let's say a label, and we'll call this maybe default label. And the new file is created, and if we go to design view, you can basically see this isn't really that impressive. We can edit some of the parameters here, but what we're going to do is in source we're going to actually specify a couple properties to apply as a default for this label. For example, let's change the color to maybe red, bright red, and we want to set maybe the width to 100 pixels. And I don't know, the text, let's maybe add a default amount of text here, and let's just say, label. So let's save that, and now we hopefully have another component stored within our archive called default label. And to verify that, remember that we linked our project, our test project, against that particular archive. So let's go back to our test archive here, and go back to design view, and sure enough we actually now have a custom default label included in our custom components property. So let's just drag one out here onto the stage, and voila, look, we have a custom label that is automatically colored red and 100 pixels in width. This is really simple examples of what you can do with custom components. You could come up with entire blocks of functionality and elements and visual elements that are stored in custom components. It's really a useful way of collapsing pieces of visual information into components that can be shared or reused, most importantly reused. This is useful for engineers because they can write less code. They can write it once and share it amongst a bunch of potential applications. For example, it's also useful if you are on a team and you have designers who design the look and feel and engineers who need to implement it. They can operate at two different levels. You could have a designer who is designing the components that are in use by the engineer with a specified set of ways to interact with the components, like for example the properties or accessor methods, and then the engineer can worry about maybe things behind at the next layer behind the application, like what actually gets displayed in the label. Anyhow, that's a brief synopsis of building a custom component and storing it in a component library. Okay, to review this tutorial, custom components are a great way to store and reuse code. You can create them visually, as in with a visual designer, or you can even code them up in MXML or ActionScript. You can store them in a Flex application, but oftentimes it's a great idea to use a Flex library. This allows that created SWC file to be shared amongst either designers, engineers, or even customers.